Assalamu alaikum.
Wow. Good to see you.
Thank you, sir.
So, let's settle down. You can introduce yourself to us quickly.
So I'm Zainab Hafiz. I was born in Islamabad and I was raised in Saudi Arabia. My family was living in Saudi Arabia as my father is an electrical engineer and he was working for the government of Saudi Arabia. I did my schooling from a British international school where I did my O-levels. After that, I switched to the Pakistan Embassy School in Saudi Arabia where I did my FSc. And then I came to Pakistan for pursuing my higher education. I've done my bachelor's in business administration, followed with my master's in project management. My work experience is as a business development executive at a medical firm. And also I've taught for a short while English communication skills to FSC students. Currently, I'm working as a research analyst at a private firm.
Good. I think last week there was a news item. The Saudis, they are going to allow citizenship to the skilled people who are there in.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is part of the Vision 2030 plan of MBS, the de facto leader of Saudi Arabia. They're trying to open up the Saudi society to allow more foreigners to come in and to
do you qualify for that citizenship?
So we've shifted back to Pakistan now as a family. So I'm not sure if I can qualify for that now. But if I was still living in Saudi Arabia, then there were ways to get into that.
But that is not only for the resident, but they are telling this is for all.
Yes, sir. It's basically the policy behind that is those people who are scientists or they have some sort of qualification they can add to the economy of Saudi Arabia because basically...
Project management is one of the very important qualification now.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us what is the cycle of project management? Basic cycle you have. How it works?
So it starts with the conception of an idea and that's part of the initiation phase in which you plan a project. And then comes the thorough planning of the idea, which includes the triple constraint of time, scope, and cost, which is calculated for the certain project. And then it's the implementation of that idea, followed with evaluation and control of how the process is taking place, whether there are any discrepancies that can be corrected. And finally, it's the closure of the project and then the feedback.
Zainab, have you looked into the Planning Commission of Pakistan website, the website of Planning Commission?
So not the website, but I do have a slight idea about the Planning Commission.
No, there are certain instruction, the planning of project planning. There's a PC1, PC2, PC3, PC4, PC5. Have you seen it?
No, sir, I
you
haven't
must see
seen
it.
that.
You must see it and be fully prepared on that.
All right, sir.
Okay. वो आपसे ये when you will say project management, there could be a question how the projects are made in Pakistan. What is the process of project planning and approval?
Yes, sir.
Now you say that your favorite personality is Fatma Bhutto. Why? Why Fatma Bhutto?
So I like her because of her communication skills and because of her writing. It's quite different from the other writers. She's quite conventional in her thinking. And she brings out the different aspects of the society that people normally don't talk about because of, they label it as a taboo. And besides that, she defends the rights of minorities and refugees or those segments of the society that are not really looked into.
How many books she has written?
So she has written quite a lot of books, but I've only read one of her books, The Crescent Moon, Shadow of the Crescent Moon.
She has got a lot of rulers in to work. Has she been here? Is she working in rulers in?
So she's not part of the political party that she
dynasty.
So she's not part
I'm saying she is a social scientist, she is a political leader.
Yes, so she does work for different think tanks. She comes to Pakistan for a short while and then she attends different seminars and awareness campaigns as well, which is how I got to know about her as well. I watched a few videos of hers where she was speaking for the rights of minorities.
Okay, my last question is just tell us, what is philosophy?
So philosophy is everything basically. Any idea that any person thinks of is part of philosophy. That's basically the start of philosophy. But as a subject, the term philosophy means the love of wisdom. So it's any question that arises in a person's mind and they feel the need to find answers for that question. That wraps up philosophy as a subject.
What is the philosophy of, or what is the philosophy of interview?
So I would say that it's to keep calm and to take everything as a challenge and to respond back.
वो तो आपका रोल है ना. I'm talking about what is the philosophy of interview. Why this is two-way communication?
So
What is the
it's basically a two-way communication to analyze a person's strengths and weaknesses and whether the person has the required skills for the job that they're applying for.
Thank you. Please.
How will you define GDP?
So it's a factor to measure the economic strength of a country. Because the gross domestic product is basically the total amount of products or services that a nation has sold in a certain period of time.
And which sectors contribute towards the GDP and their share of contribution?
So in terms of Pakistan, agriculture, services and manufacturing are the major contributors to the GDP. And
First is this services sector and then agriculture, industry. And how can we improve the level of GDP? Right now, what is the tax to GDP ratio?
I cannot recall exactly the figure, but I've read that the tax to GDP ratio is improving. It was previously below 10%, but I think it's around 11% currently because the current government has improved it about 18%.
18%?
From the previous year, previous government, this current government is working on tax reforms due to which they have improved the tax collection to about 18% from the previous government.
18%.
That is what the Economic Survey of Pakistan says.
Please, when you go back, you should be clear. Try to be clear on these issues. Okay? What was the policy of strategic depth and what did Pakistan gain from it?
So basically, in the strategic depth, Pakistan tried to show itself as a friendly country with the neighboring countries. And especially China, we've been developing good relations with China. And especially the CPEC project that we're working on with China is broadening our relations with the entire region as well.
Strategic depth was related to China?
So basically, it's about the relations that a state develops in terms of its position on the map. And so our position on the map is quite important because it serves as a connection point between East and West.
PASS is your first choice. How, in your view, this service contributes towards the development of the country?
So basically, the Pakistan Administrative Service is a lot about administration, which involves the civic duties as well, which is basically the municipalities that are part of the service, such as ensuring that people have the basic necessities of life, such as water, ensuring that the sewerage is being done cleanly and preserving the cleanliness of the country, and ensuring that everything happens in a very dutiful manner.
Okay, custom is your choice, is your third choice. What functions are performed by the customs department?
So the customs department is basically concerned with the inflow and outflow of things, such as if we're importing something from abroad, there will be certain tax on that commodity. Yes, duties, excise duties.
Not excise duties, custom duties.
Yes, sorry, sir, custom duties.
And when you export something again, you will have duties on it. So, as a custom officer, how will you ensure that you are, the duties which under your supervision, they are uh, they are they are right. You see, they are according to the value of the goods that are being exported, and they are being doing rightly. There is no under invoicing or over invoicing.
So I believe that the custom officer has to have a very wide outlook, because to ensure that the exports of a country are being sent through proper channels, so that they will fetch some returns for the country as well. Because as we know, some of our borders are quite porous and things are being sent out without.
How will you ensure that there is no under invoicing and over invoicing being carried out in the import and exports of the goods? Because that is where you see where there is a lot of pilferage, lot of leakages.
Yes, sir. So basically, the team that is involved in the customer, there has to be strict supervision on them, so that there's no middleman involved that might, leverage with the people or provide them with certain discounts for personal advantage.
And do we have anti-money laundering law?
So I'm not sure about the law, but currently the country is working on the two factors that the IMF has, told us to work on, which is to reduce money laundering and to work on anti-terror financing.
That is because we have anti-money laundering law. You see, there are provisions of anti-money laundering law which deal with terrorist financing, which deals with money laundering. So we have anti-money laundering law.
Yes.
And what are the 3 stages of money laundering? 4 stages. How it is done?
So it's basically when people collect a lot of money and then they store it in offshore accounts, which is not really documented, and so they don't have to pay any duties on that, or it's not acknowledged.
What are the three ways in which it is done? There are certain stages of money laundering. 1, 2, 3, 4, until you see it is completed in those 4 stages.
Okay. I'm not aware of the
no
stages.
problem. Please, when you go back, look at it.
All right.
Do you know anything about the Khalistan movement?
Yes, ma'am. Basically, the Sikhs that are demanding a separate state. It's quite an old movement. They've always wanted a separate state for themselves, which they would call Khalistan. And so the Sikhs community is quite numerous in UK, and they're the ones that fund this movement. So I believe this might be the one that is involved in the referendum too.
And is it only in London, or do they plan, or what are their plans?
No, ma'am, they are in the subcontinent too. There are a lot of them in India especially, and a few in Pakistan as well, and quite across the globe. But they want a separate homeland for the Sikhs.
How do they plan to get it?
Ma'am, I'll have to look into that.
Yes, because referendum is the first step. What are the other steps that they intend to take? Okay, you need to study that.
All right.
Recently, COP26 concluded.
Yes, ma'am.
What were the outcomes?
Ma'am, the outcomes weren't very different from the previous outcomes of the previous conference on parties. Basically, the agenda behind the COP was to reduce the carbon footprint in the world, which is causing the climate change. But the issue still remains that the developed countries, such as the US and especially the European Union, they're not taking a very front role in reducing the carbon footprint. And so mostly they're just involved in dialogue rather than actual actions to reduce the carbon footprint.
Nuclear Suppliers Group.
Yes, ma'am. The Nuclear Suppliers Group is basically a group of countries that supply nuclear weapons, but with the ruling that it won't be used for proliferation of nuclear weapons. It's basically involved in nuclear non-proliferation.
This is what they claim.
Yes, ma'am.
So how come Australia, which is member of NSG, decided to get nuclear-powered submarines from USA?
Ma'am, it's always been the case that the nations that are quite strong in terms of their financial status and in terms of the allies that they have, such as Australia is now allied with the US very closely, as we've seen in AUKUS as well. So these states mostly they speak a lot about nice things such as reducing nuclear proliferation and all that, but they're the ones that are involved in these activities mostly, and they're the ones that can afford such activities as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
What is non-polarity?
So basically, non-polarity is neutrality, not engaging with any one side of a scenario.
What is multipolarity?
Multipolarity is basically, as we see in the current world order, the different states, when they get more power and they start asserting themselves in the international world order, that's called multipolarity.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, when Cold War began and when ended?
So it started around 1947 and it ended around 1991, I believe.
Okay, what is the climax or high points of Cold War?
So the climax was when the missiles of USSR and USA were both facing each other, and the world was almost at the edge of World War III. In the Cuban Missile Crisis was also
Which
part
year?
of it. So I believe it was around 1970. 1970, I believe, if I'm not wrong.
1962.
Right,
John F.
sir.
Kennedy was the president of USA at that time.
Right, sir.
Check all these. Okay, when NPT concluded?
So I'm not sure about the year.
Okay, tell me, when scientific society established and who established this society?
So the Scientific Society was established by Sir Syed Ahmed.
Yeah, in which year?
In the year, I'm not quite sure of the year, but it would be around 1860, maybe. 1860, I believe, or 1870.
1867.
1867.
Sorry, Scientific Society 1864 and Urdu Hindi Controversy 1867. Do not be confused about all these
Alright.
things. Okay, tell me, what was the exact year when separate electorate, the biggest demand of Muslims, incorporated in Indian National Council Act?
So I believe it must be in the Lucknow Pact in 1916, when the Congress and the Muslim League both finally met in terms of the separate electorate.
No. Okay, tell me, who negotiated Cabinet Mission Plan on behalf of Indian National Congress?
So I'm sorry, I cannot recall.
Okay, it's Abdul Kalam Azad.
All right, sir.
Okay, sir, it's concluded.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, let's conclude it.
All right, sir.
Let's have informal discussion. You tell us, what do you feel? How you have performed?
So I think I've done all right, but I still need to work on the Indo-Pak history and a few recent current affair developments as well.
Zainab, mashallah, you are good. State of preparedness में होना चाहिए. One should be, because you are going. कब है आपका इंटरव्यू?
But the day after tomorrow.
वो देखो, बात ये है कि ये एक्चुअली ये सारा जो एग्जाम है ना सिविल सर्विस का, ये डिजाइन ही इसी तरह हुआ है. दिस इज ऑल वो आपका होता है सुबह शाम सुबह शाम सुबह शाम. दैट इज ए ओरिजिनलिटी आपकी बाहर आ रही है. 20 साल का जो है उसको हम लेके बाहर आ रहे हैं.
Yes, sir.
ठीक है. They are just trying to make an assessment about your personality, about your originality of thought, how critical you are, analytical कितने हैं, creative कितने हैं. तो ये चीज़ें हम वहाँ देख रहे होते हैं. तो अदरवाइज यू आर माशाल्लाह, यू आर फाइन इंट्रोडक्शन, पर्सनैलिटी, कम्युनिकेशन स्किल, कॉन्फिडेंस. अब जो है ना नॉलेज थोड़ा सा मुझे लग रहा है कि देयर आर सर्टेन एरियाज जो कि मिसिंग है. ठीक है ना. अब ये है कि डे आफ्टर टुमारो यू आर गोइंग.
Yes, sir.
ठीक है ना. बेस्ट ऑफ लक. मैं एक चीज़ आपको जहन में रख लें
Yes, sir.
कि जो CS सिविल सर्विस का इंटरव्यू होता है ना, उसमें बहुत रेयर वो कोई 230-40 से ऊपर किसी को देते हैं. तो ये जहन में रख लें.
Yes, sir.
वो बांटते नहीं है.
Yes, sir.
वो बहुत ही काफ़ी टाइट होता है वहाँ, मतलब क्राइटेरिया इवैल्यूएशन. तो मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम पीपल आर ऑफ सेम कैलिबर वहाँ जो पहुँच जाते हैं.
Yes, sir.
तो फिर उनकी यही होते हैं 50 to 60% की रेंज में, 50, 60, 70, दिस इज द परसेंटेज लेवल पे जो इंटरव्यू परफॉर्म करते हैं. ठीक है. Then your written examination, that matters. وہ
Yes,
کتنا
sir.
آپ نے اس میں کیا ہے. تو آئی تھنک یو آر ٹوڈے یو آر فائن. یہ فاطمہ بھٹو یہ ان کو چھوڑو, کوئی نہ کوئی مطلب ڈیڈ باڈی پکڑو اسی کو لکھ دو,
All right,
کیونکہ
sir.
یہ کنٹروورسل ہو جاتے ہیں بہت سارے یہ لوگ.
Yes, sir.
ٹھیک ہے نا, کہ کوئی مورل گراؤنڈ جو ہے نا, ہائی مورل گراؤنڈ پہ نہیں آتا.
All right, sir.
ٹھیک ہے نا. تو آئی تھنک وہاں دیکھ بی کیئرفل وین یو آر رائٹنگ اباؤٹ یور فیوریٹ پرسنالٹیز. اور باقی ٹھیک ہے آپ کا, باقی تو آپ کا ٹھیک ہے انشاءاللہ یو ول میک گڈ.
ہاں آپ نے کام ان کمپوزر, دیٹس ویری گڈ. لاسٹ ٹائم بھی کیونکہ ہم نے, آپ کو یاد ہے ہم نے کہا تھا آپ کو ہم نے زیادہ نمبر اسی وجہ سے دیے, کام کمپوزر کی وجہ سے.
Yes, sir.
So that is good. That is لیکن یہ نالج کیا بہت ہے. دیکھیے نا آپ ذرا جی ڈی پی کے کا نہیں پتہ آپ کو, اس کو کون سے سیکٹر اس کو کنٹریبیوٹ کر رہے ہیں اور کتنا کر رہے ہیں. دس از سم تھنگ ویری ویری بیسک.
آپ گھبرائی ہوئی ہے میرے خیال میں. نو یو نیڈ ٹو کمپوز یور سیلف, ہیو اے گڈ سلیپ.
All right,
ٹھیک ہے
sir.
نا, اور کچھ نہ کریں, بس جو کچھ پڑا ہوا کافی ہے, تو بس گیٹ ریڈی.
All right, sir.
ٹھیک ہے نا, ابھی بس آرام کریں, ابھی زیادہ ٹینس نہیں کرنا اپنے آپ کو, نہ کچھ ہو سکتا ہے.
جی.
بس جو اپ ڈیٹ ہے کوئی نوٹ بک کو تو اس کو دیکھ لو.
All
تو وہ
right, sir.
سعودی عربیہ پہ کنسنٹریٹ آپ کریں, اگر اف یو ہیو اسٹیڈ دیئر فار لانگ ٹائم تو
Yes,
وہ
sir.
اس کی پالیسی آج کل جو چینجز آ رہی ہیں وہ بھی ڈسکس کر سکتے ہیں.
All right, sir.
پلیز.
Zainab, you have a good personality. Your dress up has improved from last time. You have paid heed to it. You're looking good. It's a very presentable way of coming to interview. Knowledge gap بیٹا ہے, اگر اخبارات تھوڑا پڑھ لو تاکہ پتہ چل جائے. سعودی عربیہ کا جو انہوں نے پیسے پلیج کیے تھے ابھی تک نہیں آئے. یو نو آل دیز کویسچن سعودی عربیہ پہ, ان کی ایڈ پہ, یمن پہ, all sorts of things can be asked. So just go through it and I'm sure you'll do very well. 1.5 دن رہ گیا آپ کے پاس, and
Yes, sir.
جیسے انہوں نے کہا ریلیکس, بی کمپوزڈ, انشاءاللہ you'll do well.
Inshallah. Thank you, ma'am.
صرف آبجیکٹیو کوشچن ٹوکن کوشچن پہ بس فوکس کریں, باقی سب کچھ بتا دیے.
All right, sir. Thank you.